I started off here with this one, Under the Covers, and I scrapped that because I think that's kind of the point right now, is that we may want to be hiding under the covers, but I think it's sort of the right thing to do to just at least peek out from under the covers, maybe get out of the covers altogether. I think that's it for this new moon. Lately I've been getting images around the new full moon times. This is not different. This time it's sort of, and this is why I started under the covers, because I woke up in the morning and I just saw this image, this picture, almost like a moving painting. And, imagination has different purposes. We use imagination like a tool for different reasons. I often use my imagination as a way of reaching into my intuition. I talk about that a lot. But imagination is also a way of imagining a future. It's a way of creating. It's a way of bringing something in and formulating thoughts around a new creation. So we use our imagination in lots of different ways. And, I can use my imagination for positive thinking and as a way to get out of negative brain patterns. I can imagine that sort of what if up scenario. I can easily do a what if down, but I have to use my imagination. I have to engage it to do the what if up. What if everything's going to turn out all right? What if this election is the beginning of 1,000 years of peace? We can go in that direction using our imagination. I use my imagination when I'm working with my sense of intuition. And when I do this, I allow my imagination to pour into my field without deciding what it's going to be. Right? So if I'm imagining a story, I might have a character and I might decide I want this character to do something, and I use my imagination to create that thing that I'm motivated to have happen. When I use intuition with my imagination, I try to open myself. I talked about this last time, didn't I? Open myself like a vessel and allow it to be filled up with my imagination so it doesn't feel like I'm directing it. Or I'm not aware of that anyway. And when I do these moons and I open like a vessel and let something pour in and then describe it to you, that imagination is different. There's no judgment around it, whether it's better or worse. But all I'm saying is that I know it has a particular kind of feeling when I'm not trying to make it happen. That's what I want to tell you before I tell you this story. Only because maybe it scares me a little bit. So the picture is this. It is a tree, and it is the season of autumn as it is now here in Maine. And this tree has in this very last week lost its leaves. The wind has blown most of the leaves off of it. So it has this beautiful dark silhouette against a gray sky. And there's a couple of leaves still on this tree. It's a spooky tree. The tree has a feeling of spookiness. And this is perfectly appropriate for this time of year. Halloween, Samhain, Diwali, these celebrations of darkness to light, the victory of light over darkness for Diwali, the midpoint here between end of summer, beginning of fall, and midwinter solstice. We're confronting darkness. We're confronting a change of season, and this is something that we're well accustomed to. We know about this cycle of change. So whether we like it or we don't like it, there's this sense of everything's in order because it's fall now and we know what this is all about. But this spooky tree is spooky because the feeling is the lights are going down on the tree. That part is normal, but the lights are going down, and it's almost like in a regular tree, you could see the leaves fall and the energy return to the roots. But this feeling is the energy's returning way, 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 way down, like way down. And it doesn't quite feel like any kind of release down into the ground that we know. It's a little deeper, it's a little farther, and that's what feels spooky to me. Like, oh my gosh, what if spring doesn't come? Like that kind of spooky. Like a deep, dark season is upon us. This is a good story for Halloween, but it kind of gives me chills. Like, I hope this isn't true, but maybe we should be prepared for this in a feeling sort of a way. That's all. That's as far as I want to go with it. Like, what would it feel like to release way down deep into the ground? What would you retrieve if you had that sort of a winter where it was a real shutting down? So back to this tree. So this seasonal release, the release of the leaves, the returning to the roots, the concentration of rootedness, shall I say, just rootedness. And then I'm watching this picture thinking, I hope it's not just like it feels like a long season in front of this tree. But then I started seeing people in front of the tree, and there were people fighting around the tree. And I wasn't looking for this or hoping for this image, but that was the image that just popped up. And it was that people were fighting, but underneath the fighting, they were just really scared because this long season of darkness was kind of a new thing, and it triggered all sorts of kind of a new kind of fear, and that new kind of fear, because these people didn't know what to do with it, it triggered or incited a kind of violence. It did, it was like cartoon violence the way I was seeing it. So, you're right. Let's not get scared about these fighting people in my imagination. I'm talking to myself. Like, that's why I'm not so good with this intuition and like forethinking. Is that, what would you say? Seeing into the future? I don't really want to do it. But I do like just feeling this moment now. And honestly, to me, in these few days before this American presidential election, kind of feels like this. I have absolutely no sense or idea of how this is going to turn out, but none of it feels like neat and tidy, let's say. Well. What is going on anyway? I'm here to figure it out. I never figure it out. I'm here to talk about it. I'm here to ponder over it. Hello, I am your host, Anne Headley. And this is my podcast, What is Going On Anyway, where I contemplate the current moon, whether it's new or full. This is our special new Beaver Moon. It is a time to dream big. Let your thoughts and imaginations go sky high, like fill them up like a hot air balloon this time. Really, really, really. In my podcast, I use my intuition to share a story about this moment, to offer some guidance back to myself as I re-listen, and to you, my dear and very welcome listener. I wonder about how universal themes show up for me and through us through different seasons. And as I reach for meaning, using this intuition and imagination and offer it to you and me, I discover there's a richness in the simplicity of paying attention to life as it is, to me as I am, to not trying to change or shift, but to allow myself to widen and open and receive the story as it comes to me. Thank you for being here. I want to share with you a couple of things, but I want to share this dream that I woke up, I was a little astonished by it, and I wrote it down. Let me grab my notebook. I hope this makes sense. I'm sort of reading it over for the first time since I wrote it down. So in my dream, I was on our road and we had some new neighbors move in. And these were really rich, fancy neighbors, very lovely people, but they just had more money than they knew what to do with. Well, they knew what to do with it. They had a beautiful, architecturally built modern home. They had a son who needed help with freedom agency, sort of homeschooling type of stuff. And I became friendly and I helped and I showed up. I felt very protective of these folks. While they had lots of money, they did not have so many inner resources. And I drove home from their house and I noticed there was a photographer in the road. This is me being protective of them. The photographer was taking pictures of the side of the road, but I felt like he was too close to their home and infringing on their privacy. That's the end of that part of the dream. I don't know. Maybe this is silly. Then Becca told me she was teaching an exercise class with yoga balls, and she was really excited about it. And we talked about it. This is, obviously still in the dream. She needed a little support in that sense of wanted to talk about the plans, and I was excited for her. And suddenly I realized I could take my elevator to her class on Wednesdays. And why hadn't I thought of it before? It was like the most obvious thing, like so silly of me. Why didn't I think to use the elevator? All I had to do was get in and press 5, and I'd open up at her place. We'd done it before, clearly. I got in the elevator to surprise her and sort of show her that we could do this. And the elevator, like so many things in my feelings, wasn't functioning just exactly as it should. It creaked and it didn't close properly. I pressed 5, but I could already see something was wrong. The doors opened and I read Jimena Paz, which is a dancer that I danced with years ago with Mimi Gerard. She still dances, but I haven't been in touch with her in years. But anyway, she showed up in my dream, and here I was with Jimena, and I could see her through the secondary doors window. Like there were 2 doors, one would open and then the second one would open, just like you've had that before in elevators, right? And there she was. And she was in a rocket ship's living room. She was about to prepare to take off on an adventure to Mars. So that all made complete sense. Isn't that funny? In dreams, like, it was just obvious that's what was happening. No explanation, no need to make sense of that. Her child was with her, and there were scientists in the antechamber, and they were frustrated that I had showed up in that moment because I was sort of messing up their launch plans. She seemed to remember me, but was understandably preoccupied. I said, I didn't mean to come here. I got back in the elevator, and I didn't believe it would take me where I wanted it to go any longer. I was sort of lost from this simple idea or ideal that I would get to Becca really quickly. The doors closed, and I had to manually connect the latches. They were sort of like ended up being like a backpack buckle, like a waist buckle, that I was trying to do these plastic latches for the elevator, but they were kind of discoordinated. And then I opened up to something that felt like a very familiar beach shack it had a free pile out front. And I think Becca might have been there, but I'm not quite sure about that. It was familiar to me, but it wasn't mine. And I helped move the free pile sign to another more visible location. And while doing that, I noticed a spot in the water where there seemed to be some small species of dolphin and babies. And they were sunbathing in very shallow water. All of a sudden, I don't know where I'm going with this story, but I have to just finish it, okay? Just finish the dream. I disturbed these little dolphin creatures a little bit. And there was an older man and his wife watching them and watching me. I reached out to touch one and I seemed to hurt it, but I didn't mean to hurt it. I just wasn't giving it enough space, and I was greedy for contact, kind of like I can be if there are kittens around me. Later, I was sort of tussle tumbling with a larger dolphin, and I thought it was good play, but it was probably more about me wanting this interaction than a genuine consent-filled exchange. And that's all I can really remember about the dream. The elevator was acting kind of like the way we use Zoom calls these days, that we actually can be most anywhere on the planet. And I wonder, it's kind of like maybe we forget that we can think in with those parameters, that we can be many places. We can participate in different circles and groups of people. And it is a challenge, which is why I think we've got to get really clear with our thinking and the way that we create boundaries around where we want to focus our attention. The dream that I just sort of wanted to tell you about it because, it's not that I think this is foreshadowing that we're going to have these Zoom elevators, but I think we could think in that direction, that there may be future possibilities that we haven't quite imagined. Sort of like, maybe we imagined Zoom-ish calls. I don't know. I had sort of Star Trek-y type futuristic ideals of that kind of. Was that like an elevator? Remember that thing where you would like we did it, that the characters could go and stand and then they would sort of be like disappeared and then reappeared somewhere? That's kind of in the collective imagination. And this is just something that I wrote after writing down that dream. It's pretty popular to talk about boundaries right now. But also, can you feel the urgency of becoming adept at managing them? I'm not saying like we should or we shouldn't. I'm just saying, can you feel like I'm feeling that urgency of the why? Not just that it's a good idea, but the why. And I think it's because we aren't going to become less technologically flexible. More opportunities, like maybe better Zoom calls, are going to arise for more and more people. So the question that I propose to myself is, where do you want to be? If you could be anywhere, where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Who do you want to meet and enjoy that you maybe haven't befriended yet? What sort of a person? What sort of a community are you looking for? And of course we don't know, but like I would answer, to get more specific, I would answer kind of like, I want to befriend curious, artistic, animal-loving people who explore similar existential questions to me and who will make me laugh as we challenge previously held notions of the way life is. That kind of, I say that with a heaviness, like the way it is. I want to challenge that. And I want to meet people who joyfully experience how life is shifting kind of right in front of our eyes. It is scary, but I want to more look at the hopefulness and the joy of it. So I'm thinking about magical transporting elevators, and I've also been, this is what's going on anyway, right? I've also been watching the night sky quite a lot because I am really interested in all of this aurora activity and watching it and seeing how it makes my body feel when I'm out with aurora. Because as I watch, there are some nights where I don't know what the feeling is exactly, but I'm enjoying getting to know the feeling tone of being in the night sky with aurora. It's like, it's a curious feeling to me. It's almost like I think I can feel it, like electrically or something. But I've been watching the night sky, and because we can see it with the smartphone cameras, I can see how I feel in my body, and then I can see what's showing up that's beyond the ability of my eyes to see. So some of those reds and pinks are harder to see with a naked eye. I can sometimes see greens, and I can often see just the, I don't know what you call them, the columns that are shifting. That is pretty perceptible. And also by just being out in the dark for longer than 15 minutes, my eyes adjust and I can see better everything in the night sky. And the other night, I was out with the stars and I had this incredible sense of awe and wonder, as one does with the stars. But I also had this equal feeling that arose in me where I could feel myself feeling afraid. I was watching the sky and just feeling like, I don't know what this is all about. And I just had this kind of feeling like I was on the edge of an abyss that I was just about to leap into. That feeling of kind of being like when you stand on the edge of the Grand Canyon and it feels like your body might just want the exhilaration of jumping, that kind of fear. It's like kind of like a fear of heights feeling with the night sky. And that little bit of fear, it was like a little bit of fear of the dark, a little bit of fear of the unknown feeling as I'm watching the sky, parallel to a sense of awe and wonder. And almost like this like side feeling of, oh my gosh, what if I saw a giant spaceship or something like that? What if that's another part of reality that I don't know anything about? Like sort of this fear of the unknown, fear of the dark. And what is in the dark, standing there. And I could feel myself going back and forth like I'm standing on a balance beam, balancing awe and wonder and fear of the dark, fear of the unknown. And I couldn't quite get there. I couldn't honestly, truly, really, I could suppress it, my fear, but I couldn't really pull it into perfect balance. I was a little bit more afraid than not when I was being honest with myself. I mean, I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but it's just true. And so then I've been thinking about that since then, and I've been practicing standing outside and holding a big feeling of awe and wonder without suppressing the fear and letting the fear come up and trying to be with it, to really be with that honest sense of this universe is bigger. It's much more mysterious. It's infinite. And it's like standing and looking into infinity is terrifying. And I sort of just want to stand there and, not be terrified, but I want to be practiced at facing it. I think at some point I have to be able to look at the night sky and symbolically look at everything that feels beyond and infinite and far and expansive, that I'll need to look at that fearlessly and receptively, like I think all of us collectively need to do about our collective future. Maybe as a species, that we need to collectively look at our future fearlessly and receptively. Like, before we can even really place ourselves in the universe, we can barely do that on our own planet, you know? We can't do that really between countries. Look at each other and our future fearlessly. So I'm not having a whole lot of hope for that in this moment, but I do know that there is a way for me to practice that internally, to practice that sense of looking at complete unknown with awe and wonder and practice. I don't know if fearless is the right word, you know? Like there's something bravery, just practice staying and staying open and being brave. Again, this is like, I've been talking about this a lot, is that the courage to try to stay balanced in the face of so much unknown. So the election is near, and this new moon feels very auspicious. And I say that word, but I really need to look at what it means. Conducive to success. Auspicious is favorable. Giving or being a sign of future success. Promising success. Promising future success, not now success. I think it doesn't mean that now we necessarily get the success that we hope for. Something is important here to just kind of pull on the threads of. It's not that the success matters as much as the momentum of what we think of as success. There's an undertone to what is success. That momentum is what we're looking for, I think. So imagine we're hoping for this destination that we think of as success, but all we have is a bicycle to get there. And the important thing, just hang in there with me with this analogy. The important thing about a bicycle is gathering that momentum to travel forward. And so that its balance and velocity together make this easy, adaptable forward motion. And almost the least important part of all of that business is the direction you're facing, at least to start. So right now, maybe it's been a time of learning, collectively learning to ride this new way of people being together post-pandemically. We've got these incredible elements of knowing each other virtually and locally. Like I've found people in the past 10 or less years, like my Alopecian friends, I never knew they existed before. I didn't have a community of baldies to rest my weary head with. Like it can be tiring to be alone in the world with weird autoimmune issues, right? Or any kind of specialty thing that makes you different in a small local community, but then makes you feel very welcome and part of something in a larger global community. That's pretty specific. And every one of us has access to these very specific communities around the world that really matter to us. And we also have our local communities. And we're sort of in this clunky process of bridging that, like riding a bicycle. And it's so hard and scary, like when we learn to ride a bike, that we almost give up so many times. Like, this is impossible. This is impossible. But I'm here to say that this new moon is promising success. It's showing us somehow that cool gang of older kids just flying around the neighborhood with ease. I remember the older kids in my neighborhood, and they could ride their bikes with no hands. And oh man, that was just the coolest thing that my 7-year-old self could imagine, who had just really learned to ride a bike. To see them, they would lean back and cross their arms over their chests and just ride their bike to the pool. That was, it was just the coolest thing. And that is what I think we're seeing here, that there's something that says, keep going. There's some kind of smooth, easy locomotion ahead. In these last couple of weeks, we went out to see Hadestown, which is a Broadway musical that toured to Portland. And Hadestown is a perpetual story of hope. And what I loved so much about it, well, first of all, Anais Mitchell wrote it, and she's such a lovely songwriter, and I will link it in the show notes if you want to listen. And of course, I loved it. But there's this one song that feels really perfect for this moment, maybe in America, probably the world right now, and it's called Road to Hell. And it starts with Hermes telling us it's a sad song, but we sing it anyway. And Hadestown is about Hades and Persephone, but primarily about the love story of Orpheus and Eurydice. And Orpheus is a singer, and such a beautiful singer and songwriter, which is a lovely story in itself, but that the songs that Orpheus they're saying in Hadestown that it makes the world move back into tune, but the rocks and the stones and the rivers listen to this song. That to me is very inspiring, just to think about the song that the rocks and the rivers and the animals all pay attention to. This quick story is that while the earliest musicians were gods, Orpheus was mortal. But it's said that Orpheus had no rival anywhere except the gods alone. There was no limit to his power when he played and sang. And right now I'm reading out of Mythology by Edith Hamilton. No one and nothing could resist him. Everything animate and inanimate followed him. He moved the rocks on the hillside and turned the courses of the rivers. Where he first met and how he wooed the maiden he loved, Eurydice, we're not told, but it's clear that no maiden he wanted could have resisted the power of his song. They were married, but their joy was brief. Directly after the wedding, as the bride walked in a meadow with her bridesmaids, a viper stung her and she died. Orpheus's grief was overwhelming. He could not endure it. He determined to go down to the world of death and try to bring Eurydice back. He said to himself, "With my song I will charm Demeter's daughter. I will charm the Lord of the dead. Moving their hearts with my melody, I will bear her away from Hades." He dared more than any other man ever dared for his love. He took the fearsome journey to the underworld. There he struck his lyre, and at the sound all that vast multitude were charmed to stillness. Orpheus sang, "O gods who rule the dark and silent world, to you all born of woman needs must come. All lovely things at last go down to you. You are the debtor who is always paid. Then we are yours forever and ever. But I seek one who came to you too soon. The bud was plucked before the flower bloomed. I tried to bear my loss. I could not bear it. Love was too strong a god. O king, you know that old tale men tell is true, how once the flowers saw the rape of Proserpine, then weave again for sweet Eurydice, life's pattern that was taken from the loom too quickly. See, I ask a little thing, only that you will lend, not give her to me. She shall be yours when her year's span is full. No one under the spell of his voice could refuse him anything. He drew iron tears down Hades' cheek and made hell grant what love did seek. They summoned Eurydice and gave her to him, but upon one condition, that he would not look back at her as she followed him until they had reached the upper world. And so this is me now. I was watching the musical and I hadn't reread the story and I wasn't remembering, and I was so excited. I was so excited for Orpheus to lead Eurydice back up into the upper world, onto the earth, and they were going to have this great life together, and I was so excited about it, and I was like, they're going to make it. This is going to be so great. And they struggled, and he didn't turn around, and she was right behind him, and she was just like, I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm right behind you. And then at the very last minute, and I know you already know, but I didn't know. I don't know. I was hoping so hard. And when he turned around, I was like, what? What in the hell? What? I was, honestly, tears came to my eyes. It was like, I could not believe it. I could not believe it. And then the way the musical went, it was so gratifying and satisfying to my soft little heart that was broken because Orpheus turned around, that I have to share it with you. And Hermes says, because here's the thing, to know how it ends and still begin again, to sing it again as if it might turn out this time, I learned that from a friend of mine.
From way back when. It's an old song.
He says it's an old song. And it's a sad song.
And that is how it ends.
I gotta share this with you.
See, Orpheus was a poor boy.
Anybody got a match?
But he had a gift to give.
Give me that.
He can make you see how the world could be, in spite of the way that it is. Can you see it? Can you hear it? Can you feel it? Like a train. Is it coming? Is it coming this way? On a sunny day, there was a railroad car.
Okay, so the thing is, they just start, it's making me cry again. Then the story starts again. And I just think that is just about the most beautiful thing, that we just keep telling the story again and again, and it's an old song, and it's a sad song, and it's a love song. It's a love song.
And we're gonna sing it again and again. We're gonna sing. We're gonna sing.
Woo! I think that's what I love about it too, just that it's a sad song and it's a love song. And all of this, the sadness of it, whew, Whew. It's a love song. It's a promise that it's not just one of us. We're all going to keep singing that song again and again and again. And I just think that is so hopeful. Whew. It's got me in my feels, people. Oh my gosh. As we go into this election and whatever happens, people are struggling and striving and fighting sometimes, but underneath all of that is a human love song of being here and trying to work it out together, below ground, above ground, all which ways. So I hope you can remember that as we go into this dark season. And let us not forget to celebrate every little bit of light. Whatever you love celebrating, do it hard this year. Pull out your candles, get cozy, and do the best you can. Let your imagination run wild about the kind of celebrations that you want to have. Give yourself some kind of wonderful New Year's party. Start planning it now. That's what I'm seeing. Whew. I'm not saying that you need to go see that musical. I loved it so much, as you know. You might listen to that song once or twice to get you through the hard times, though. Okay. Oh gosh, you guys, I just want to end right here, but we've got to do a I Ching. So, the I Ching, this is your moment. Take a big breath. Think of a question. What is it for you? Let's let the question come through for all of us, not just for me. So what's on your mind? What is the thing that you want to know about right now? Let's ask. Let's get some answers. I'm letting this sing us into the oracle this time. And we get 61, inner truth. The question to ask: where do you place your trust? What feels true? It moves to hexagram 10. So we've got 61, inner truth, to hexagram 10, treading. We keep getting this one, and you're going to have to tell me what it means. But the question for hexagram 10 is, where is the tiger? Do you know how to work with such power? So I think we're getting back again and again to, what is the power that you have inside of you when you are fully committed to yourself, to, the speaking up for your boundaries about who you are and how you're going to protect that in the world, and sing the song. I'm going to go back to the song. You're singing your own love song in your life. And that, I think, is the power. And I think that's the tiger. So what feels true, and where do you place your trust? I picked up this. It's an oracle deck that Patina gave me. She's so generous and has given me so many oracle decks over the years. This is the Tao Oracle by Ma Deva Padma. And I've not read these translations before, so I think this one's nice. For 61, inner truth. Truth is not found by adopting certain beliefs or by social conditioning. It is the silent voice of the heart that responds to what is with detached clarity, untainted by emotionalism, that is always available but very often ignored. It is experienced as intuitive knowing that sees through the problems, blocks, and barriers conjured up by becoming overly fixated on achieving and attaining. It needs no support or approval. Whenever we are humble enough to respect the integrity of the inner voice and heed its guidance, the effect is a transformative one. The inner voice is the voice of your own consciousness that is serene and spacious and does not distort. It is founded on the recognition that love is your essential reality, and that the denial of love is the source of all illusion, pain, and suffering. It is the cool flame of awareness that eternally guards your birthright, the experience of inner peace. Remembering that your perceptions and interpretations are colored by your state of mind not only sheds a different light on what you call reality, but will assist you in taking greater responsibility for your thoughts and actions. That state of mind can be a shifting and transitory thing. And when it is not truth, when it is shifting and transitory. Truth is eternal and unchanging. It never grows old. It transcends the limitations of time and space. The preoccupations and worries of the ordinary mind are nearly always in support of the ego and its illusions. In other words, your thoughts, in part, create your experience. Heaven and hell are both seeds in the mind, just waiting for you to think them into being. If you're interested in inner truth more than holding on to any belief about truth, it's wise to remember that ego is the ultimate trickster. It will do anything to keep you engrossed in its fictions as long as you're willing to play the game. However, once you've really had enough and begin questioning what lies behind the apparent reality of your life, you've entered totally new territory. In spiritual terms, it's known as being on the path. Walking the path is a lifetime journey that leads you within toward aligning with inner truth. We get changing line 4. And in this oracle deck, it says, sometimes the insight you gain from getting in touch with your inner truth might lead you in directions you had not anticipated. If it is a course of action that expands your horizons and offers opportunities for greater understanding, follow it. And as for the hexagram that it moves to, 10, treading, mating with the tiger from Total I Ching, Stephen Karcher, one that I like to look at. Treading is the figure of the joyous dancer, the young ancestress Wu who goes out to the mountain shrine to mate with the tiger spirit and sky. She calls the spirit down. She is an intermediary, a person who can make the invisible visible, who dances to call down the bright spirits into her body, a skilled technician of the sacred. She exorcises demons and prays for blessings, long life, wealth, health, fertility, and the power and virtue that ennobles a life lived according to the mandate from heaven that she carries. Treading on the tiger's tail, it does not maul you. Make an offering and you will succeed. The best way to deal with treading is to proceed step by step. The path is there. Practice. Think about the right way to act and how to gain your livelihood. You are walking in the tracks of a tiger, a powerful and dangerous being. If you are careful, this being will give you what you need to exist and frighten off what is trying to harm you. Speak with it and partake of its power and intelligence. Don't do anything to make it bite you. You can't afford to sneer and scold. This is pleasing to the spirits. Through it, they will give you success, effective power, and the capacity to bring the situation to maturity. Okay, you guys, that's it. Once again, it's very late, and I'm tired, and I need to go to bed and not keep going here. You got it. I got it. It's a love song. It's a sad song. And it's worth singing again and again and again. Yeah. That song is sort of like going out and in from inner truth and out, reaching out and coming back in. I see it cycling round and around. Thank you for being here with me. We've got a full moon next time in November. We are going to have a few more answers by then, and that's a curious thing. I don't know what we're going to find out. May you be well, and may you know peace. May all beings everywhere, whether known to me or unknown, be well, and may they know peace. You can always reach out to me at my website, www.annheadley.com. And you can support me on Patreon, or I found out, thank you, John, that you can support me on Spotify too. Do you remember Romper Room when we were little? And there was this look. Does anybody remember? There were a lot of different Romper Room ladies, but my Romper Room lady was in the 70s, in the late 70s. And I just loved the way she enunciated words. There was something about that was thrilling to me. And she would look through this mirror. I think it was called Mirror. And she would say, I see John. I see Jean. I see Jason. I see Lynn. And I just was, we were always listening for our names. I see Anne. And it was so thrilling. And I just want to say, I see you too. I see you, Pia. I see you, Lori. I see you, Krista. I see you, Stephanie. I see you, Mary. I see you, Becca. I see you, Jake. I see you, Mandy. I see you, Kay. And I see so many more of you, but that's all I could think of right now. So that, maybe you'll listen next time and I'll look through the mirror and see who I see, just for fun. I really do appreciate you, and I appreciate you listening. I find out every single time that there's somebody I just absolutely didn't expect that's listening to the podcast, and I think that's wonderful. Okay, until next time, bye for now.